Hi, and welcome to the Corporate Expat Mom broadcast. I'm your host, Elena Gomez Rodriguez, and I am a trauma informed therapist and a mental fitness coach. And I'm mentioning these two because they are both important aspects of what we are going to be talking about today, which is how to disable your inner critic without losing your performance edge. So, I guess if you are taking your precious time to listen in today, it's because you have that inner critic or judge voice in your head. And you have kind of a love and hate relationship with it. Because on one hand, it helps you get so much done and be so much more effective than others. So not only it makes you achieve more and feel good about yourself, but it also gives you like that kind of outlook like, yeah, I feel better than others and I can compare myself to others and still have the confidence because I get better out of that comparison, because I have this inner critic that keeps pushing me to do more and achieve more. So you're grateful on one hand because you are where you are today and you have what you have thanks to that. However, on the other side, you do recognize that there is a price you're paying for that. So even in the moments when you do want to relax, for example, and take that necessary and much needed time to recharge your batteries and recover, not to run into a burnout, you cannot do that. Like my classic example, and all the moms out there, like all the best advice we always get, like the best way how to prevent a burnout is a self-care. So you should take some time for yourself, take a bubble bath. Like, but what if even if you manage to do that and find time for that self-care, you're still lying in that bath full of like nice smelling bubbles, but the only thing that you're still able to think of is that to-do list in your head, and that inner critic keeps telling you, well, let's get going, there's no time for this fun, like that's what lazy people do, you're not that, you need to get going and get it all done so that you can feel good about yourself again. So do you also have a love and hate relationship with your inner critic? If you do, now let's have a look at it. For you to be able to understand how to disable your inner critic, you first need to understand where it's coming from. And that's where the trauma informed piece comes in. To demystify your inner critic, you need to spiral back. So if you want to do it together with me, we can do a quick process. Think back the last time you were triggered, that you heard that inner critic voice in your head, like really strongly, where you felt that push. Get that moment and connect it with your body, because usually you're like ignoring your body, emotions, feelings, sensations in your body. No, that's useless. You stuff it under the carpet, under the lid. Do that. Check how that felt in your body when you felt that. When you were comparing yourself to somebody else, or you felt like, I have to keep pushing to get this done, otherwise I'm a failure. Connect how that and where that felt in your body. Have it? Once you have it, spiral back. Try to think about the first time ever in your life that you can remember when you felt that way in your body. First childhood memory, or teenage if you cannot go that way back. Have it? What was happening then? What was it about? Usually, when I work with my clients, I did this with myself, obviously. Usually, the inner critic is created to protect you from getting hurt. In general, it's there because somebody criticizes you, somebody makes you feel you're not good enough, what you did was not acceptable, and you need to keep trying harder, and you need to be much more critical of yourself to make sure it doesn't happen again. Yeah, that's like the broadest picture. So it's basically a brilliant survival strategy because it makes you survive. Like, you don't have to suffer that terrible pain of being rejected, of being loved very conditionally, of not being appreciated by your parents, because from that moment on, whatever happened, however you got that message from your parents or from your teachers, or comparing yourselves to your friends or like other classmates in school who did better, like it was pushing you. You created this inner push to get better. Okay. So this is what it is, essentially. Okay? This is who your inner critic is. It's been with you since childhood. We all have it. There's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're traumatized. Like, I don't want to throw away the trauma label around, because it doesn't mean that you're broken. There's nothing wrong with you. We all have it. And even people who had a happy childhood, there could have been an incident. For example, your mom went to a hospital, had to stay there for a couple of days. And you didn't understand. You were not at the age where you could understand the concept of time. You just knew she was not there. You had no idea when she was coming back, and it was terrifying. So the inner critic kind of was created to make you feel better in a way that, well, it's not your mom's fault. It's not your dad's fault that he doesn't know how to take care of you. It's your fault, and you need to try harder so that mom comes back. So now look at it from your adult perspective, because of course those are lies. Of course this is nonsense, but this is what the childhood brain is able to process. Something happened that you were not able to process with your mind at the time, and you didn't get enough help to be able to understand it. So this is where the inner critic is coming from, and this is why it's telling you lies. Those are lies. So that's the step 2. So once you get it, once you get the roots of your inner critic, if it was one sharp incident, or if it was like series of very conditional love, which is, for example, what I had a very happy childhood. I cannot blame my parents for anything. I cannot complain. I had like picture perfect childhood, but there was too little for too long. The love was conditional. It was conditioned by me trying to do my best. Yeah. So this is where it's coming from. Once you get that, see through the lies, see that those are lies. Because even thinking now, is that really true that your inner critic, like, did you need your inner critic to be the most effective? Is that true that you're really doing your best when you're stressed out to the maximum? And even if you get it all done, which is highly unlikely, because usually you're more productive when you're at least a little more chilled and not running around in panic. But even if that was true and you check on all the boxes on your to-do, how about your relationships? Could you check those too as well, that you succeeded in them? And I'm not judging. This is not my inner critic talking. This is my own experience, because my inner critic turned into a really good pusher. I was pushing myself so hard, then I started pushing others around as well. Because in order to fit everything in my schedule, like I had to, like people needed to cooperate with me, and the whole world had to cooperate with me, because if there was any glitch and anybody was late, I was already getting worked up. Like, I'm not on schedule, and you're not respecting my time. How dare you have your own personal life and your own goals? Like, how dare you not to fit in mine? So inner critic is telling you lies. And now you know why. It's coming back from a childhood. You didn't know better. It's okay. But now you do better. You do know better. So what you can do is detach. That's why I see through the lies and detach. Realize that you do have an inner critic, but that inner critic is not you. It's one of your parts. It's one of the voices in your head. You have much more of them. Not all of them are critical, and we will be talking about that next week. But detach. Those are your parts. It's not you. You are more than that. Got it? If so, then you're ready for the final step. So how to get rid of your inner critic? Because I can imagine you're trying to hold on to it because you're afraid you will turn into that lazy couch potato if you don't have it, and that's not what you want. So how to turn it off without losing the performance edge? And this is the answer. Judgment versus blameless discernment. So what's the difference? Example, you screw up. happens. Stuff happens, life happens, you make a mistake. That's okay. Well, that's okay. That's what your sage would say. That's what the wise, like elderly that has the distance, that's what they would tell you. It's okay. Go and learn from that mistake. But in the moment, you're judging yourself. And you keep that as if like you would be keeping your hand on that hot stove. Like you keep beating yourself up. Not even in that moment when you found out that you made a mistake, but for hours, for days, for months. Like this means I'm not good enough. And these, yes, and I get confirmations because there's more and more like confirmation coming from people and from places that, yeah, I'm making mistakes everywhere. So that must mean that I am a failure. Yeah, you're right, my inner critic. So thank you for pushing me harder to work on that. Here we come to the point of like, are negative emotions good for you? If you use them as your drive, it will always backfire on you. Negative emotions are meant to be red flags, as that hand on a hot stove, as I said. It's meant for you to be a signal like, hey, watch out, dummy. You're putting your hands in a place where you shouldn't. So take it off. And that's it. So it's for 1 second where you should feel that negative emotion. Okay, I failed. Like this didn't work out. And then switch, take your hand off. Don't put your hand on that hot stove. Don't keep swimming and drowning in those negative emotions because they are going to burn you to the bone. It's not going to help you get better. So this is where the discernment comes, which is to say objectively the facts, what happened, admit what happened objectively, because sometimes also the other extreme is that something happens and so then we run away because we don't want to feel that shame and guilt and like not good enough, like, okay, I messed up, I'm out of here. So you don't even learn the lesson. So the discernment starts with admitting what the facts are objectively without beating yourself up, without making any judgments about yourself and what that means. What are the facts? And then turning it with that sage perspective. What is the gift or opportunity that I can take from this situation? That's the blameless discernment. And that's how you turn it around. That's how you learn from mistakes. That's how you can still assess a situation, your performance of others, without keeping your hand on the hot stove or putting anybody else's hand on the hot stove and making themselves shitty about themselves. Okay? Make sense? I would be happy to hear about your examples and your own stories about what came up for you. I hope, like, those are 3 big steps that we did together. Usually I do this in my private practice so that we have more time really to dig for that root of that trauma, of that experience or pattern that has been with you ever since. So if you are interested, here's me. If you'd like to work one-to-one, get in touch, because this is what I do. This is the trauma-informed therapeutic coaching. So it's not trauma, like it's not a therapy where you spend months talking about just telling your stories about and swimming in those horrible feelings over and over again, just retelling your story. No. And it's not coaching, pure coaching that actually pretends there are no blocks, there are no saboteurs, there's no trauma, and just keeps pushing you ahead. But you keep falling over those hurdles from the past that keep reappearing again and again, and you keep sabotaging yourself and you have no idea why, and you're thinking like there's something wrong with me. So I'm marrying both, the therapy and the coaching, and using mental fitness. This is what you get. So if you're interested, get in touch with me. And my invitation for you is really to start practicing. It starts by catching those lies. So whenever you start feeling tense in your body, if you manage to realize that, if you are connected with your body enough and start listening to it, take that as a signal. Like, is your hand on the hot stove for too long? What is the lie that keeps it there, stuck? And that, like, your flesh burning and that painful, like, critic voice that's so harsh. You wouldn't even tell those things to you, or you wouldn't allow anybody else to tell you that, what you're telling yourself in your head. So why would you do that? Okay, so let me know what resonated with you. What are usually the typical lies that you hear your inner critic say? Start shifting into your sage. So blameless discernment. What are the facts? Face it. And then without any judgments or criticism, turn it to the other side. What is the gift or opportunity for me? What is here for me to learn so that I don't make that same mistake again? Okay, great. So let me move it till the end. Those are the two giants on whose shoulders I'm standing, Lion Goodman and Shios Achamin. This is the trauma-informed therapeutic coaching and the mental fitness that I'm blending together. So thank you, my teachers and mentors, to give them credit. And next week, if you found this useful, and if you would like to disable more of some other interesting voices in your head, then I'll be happy to see you next week when we will be talking about the other voices. Like, I don't know how about you, but if you are like in corporate and maybe expatriate and kind of like pusher, high achiever, perfectionist, then you might have some of these other voices in your head, like hyperachiever, pleaser, or stickler, avoider, whatever those are. So we will talk about them more, and we will do some introductions with them next week. All right. I wish you a great weekend. I wish you to get more familiar with your inner critic and start disabling it. All right. Take care. Bye.